Hi, I'm my Swaggerty. This is my mom Elizabeth. This is my dad Andy, and this is my brother Ben. You might see our dog Luna run in some of the shots. Today, I'm going to be reading Exodus chapter 3, verses 1 through 15. Moses at the burning bush. Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian. He led his flock beyond the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of a bush. He looked, and the bush was blazing, yet it was not consumed. Then Moses said, I must turn aside and look at the great sight and see why this bush is not burned up. When the Lord saw that he had turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush. Moses, Moses, he said, Here I am. Then he said, Come no closer. Remove the sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. He said further, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God.
Then the Lord said, I have observed the misery of my people who are in Egypt. I have heard their cry on account of their taskmasters. Indeed, I know their sufferings. And I have come down to deliver them from the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the country of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. The cry of the Israelites has now come to me. I have also seen how the Egyptians oppress them. So come, I will send you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? He said, I will be with you, and this shall be the sign for you that it is I who sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall worship God on this mountain. So when we read this passage together as a family, Andy shared a very personal connection from his past with us. So he's going to share that with you now.
So when I was 21 years old, 1995, I was fortunate enough to travel to Egypt and travel to the area that the scripture comes from, and saw what is said to be the bush that God spoke to Moses from, and also took the hike up of Mount Sinai. And when we were reading the scripture about the suffering that the folks were doing in Egypt, I thought to myself and told my family this story is the morning that we hiked up Mount Sinai, we were told, hey, there will be water along the way. You don't need to take any water. And so we hiked, no one with water. We hiked to the top, no one with water. We stood at the top. We are all thirsty. And this is the desert. And I think we might be able to show you some pictures of a much skinnier and younger and less facial-haired version of me standing on top of Mount Sinai. But I understand firsthand, because we had to hike back down. We were all famished by the time we got to the bottom, and we finally found some water. But the suffering that this desert and this land was afflicting on the people from the passage was the same thing that I was fortunate enough, in so many words, to experience firsthand. And we've got to share that story, and I got to reminisce about some travels to Egypt, and so that's how I connected with this passage.
I try to make sure that at least a little bit of my day is spent outside, because it allows me to not only see the beauty of just even my backyard, it allows me to feel closer to God.
During stay-at-home orders, we haven't been able to church, and some ways I've been able to get closer to God is by going outside and spending time in nature. Because God created everything around us, and I think it's important to be thankful for everything He gives to us. I think in the scripture reading, when he talks about Moses taking off his sandals to step on the holy ground is everywhere. It's not just up on that mountain. It's everywhere, and we have to be willing to take off our sandals and be willing to step onto the holy ground.